better let the peoples in.
Are they joining now? I will see it.
Yeah.
Just such jaggy music. Like I love it. It's good professional music. Very professional. Very, very, yeah, good work. Yeah.
Hi everyone.
How many people are in? Ooh.
Hi Lauren. Hi Emma.
Hello. Oh, hello, Ali. Hello, Danielle.
Oh, you got him before me. Hi, Danielle.
Yeah, boy. No, it's not doing the thing.
Music's about to increase in tempo.
Oh, is it?
Oh, I think so, if I remember correctly.
Ah. I miss the old song.
When you're surrounded by darkness, open your eyes. Look around you. It's a beautiful life. Don't waste
Celebrity
time.
dance.
Open your mind. Have no regrets. Paint the sky your favorite color. Your favorite color.
Hi, Sarah.
What up,
Hi,
Sarah?
Liam. Oh no, I actually haven't let Liam in yet.
Let everyone in. Very inspirational music.
When
Hi,
you're
Liam.
surrounded by darkness,
Liam!
I said hello to you before you were in the
open
room.
your eyes.
You were in the waiting room.
Look around you.
Can people hear me?
It's a beautiful
Everyone.
They're
life.
looking at you.
Blink if you can see me and hear me. Yeah.
Don't waste time. Open your mind.
You're all great.
Have no regrets. Paint the sky your favorite color. Your favorite color.
I think everyone here has been to an event before. If you want to rename yourself and just put your first name, maybe where you're from, you can type in the chat.
For that one
What
moment
state?
when the music captures our soul. We live for the music. We die for our music. And that's what makes us who we are.
Can anyone do this? Yeah! My favorite is when like some people can't do this, so they're like this. I don't know if it's like a genetic thing or something like that, but okay.
Everyone copy you.
Now go, copy Liam.
Yeah, Liam.
Oh no.
People watching the replay are going to think we're idiots.
Yes. Give me 1 second. Here's some fun facts. My chair falls apart constantly and the screws fall out, but I just don't ever fix it, so I just screw it in by hand and then wait another week until for another screw to fall out. I should fix it, but I just don't care.
Hello, Wei. I forgot how to pronounce your name.
Look around
Hey,
you.
hello. You can just call it Wei.
It's a beautiful
Wei?
life.
Yeah, Wei.
Wei. Like
Don't
Nintendo
waste
Wii.
time. Open your mind. Have no regrets. Paint the
No regrets,
sky.
guys.
Your
Paint the
favorite
sky,
color.
guys. With color,
Your
guys.
favorite color.
Your favorite color, guys.
Go, Liam.
Yeah!
We have a mission. We are all searching
So guys, so we're just going to be doing an hour of this, I hope you know.
music.
So if you're ready to get a strong neck, because this is neck exercise.
Die for our music. And that's what makes us who we are. When you're surrounded by darkness, open your eyes. Look around you. It's a beautiful life. Don't waste time. Open your mind. Have no regrets. Paint the sky your favorite color. Your favorite color.
And that's my cue. Hello, everyone. I've already mostly welcomed you all. So we've still got maybe about 10 people, I think, due to join us. So maybe for the next 5 minutes or so, we'll just kind of kill some time. I've met you all pretty much at events before, except for Mum's iPad. Have I met you before? I might ask you to unmute and I'll just rename you if that's okay. So everyone else has been before. Awesome. What can I rename you to?
Michelle.
Michelle. All right. 1 moment. Rename. Michelle. Oh, we've got some people still arriving. So if you know how to use the chat, you can type into the chat which state or territory you're from, just to get an idea of where everyone's at today. I've just got a few more people joining us. And
everyone's here.
We'll I'm just going to share with you a rough summary of our program while we wait for the others to arrive. And so we'll do in about maybe a couple of minutes a official welcome and introduction, and I'll share how I met Sharam, and then we'll go through a bit about his background. Maybe halfway through this session, we'll get to some of the audience questions that were submitted. And then at the end, there's also some gifts from Sharam, which I will share with you. So tips for participating in this session today. So generally with Mojo Mingle events, they're very interactive, but this is going to be slightly less interactive in that instead of us all talking to each other like we normally do, it's more of an interview style. So that's why I'm going to encourage you to type anything that you might, any comments or questions that you might have. If you can type it into the chat. So I see someone's already typed something in there. Awesome. So we've got Liam in Melbourne. Thank you for commenting. So yeah, feel free to type anything in the chat. And then if Sharam is explaining something, then I can find the best questions or comments to add to the conversation. So yeah, keep your microphones off unless you're invited to have a chat, and that'll just minimize the background noise. Now, I went to a women's circle event, and when people were sharing, we were invited to do twinkle fingers at any stage where we resonated with what the person was saying. So for example, I'm talking about being shy and having low confidence in like situations where there's, I don't know, cute guys around. And if you've had that experience as well, just twinkle your fingers, and that way we know that, you know, other people are resonating with what's being said. And then at the end of this, the recording will be tidied up and sent out to you in the next week or 10 days. So I think just double check to make sure that I've let everyone in who's waiting in the waiting room, and then we can get started with some proper introductions. So yeah, I think everyone is here. Cool. All right. So I will officially do a welcome now. I wrote this down because I was going to be nervous, like doing public speaking. So I wrote down my introduction. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our first Mojo Mingle interview style event, where we get to pick the brains of experts in the fields of connection, dating, relationships, and life. I am Sarah, your host. I'm a people connector. I design experiences that bring people together. I'm the creator of Mojo Mingle, Offline Valentine, and The Vegan Matchmaker. And in my opinion, Mojo Mingle is the most fun way to meet like-minded people in Australia, especially for singles. So as a community, we value health, authentic connections, and personal growth, such as stepping outside of our comfort zones. And as a result, coaching has been woven into the fabric of our services to improve the rate of success for everyone in our community. So now talking about coaching, I'm very excited to welcome, now I've been practicing how to pronounce your name, Sharam Namdarian, to join us today. So welcome, Sharam.
Sharam. Fun fact, I only discovered this recently, that when you spell my name in Gujarati, which is like one of my mum, so I'm half Indian, half Iranian. My mum speaks Gujarati, which is one of the languages in India. When you type it or when you write it in Gujarati, it actually has two A sounds, like the equivalent of two A's in the first thing. So it's like Sharam, or as I like to say, it's like the Queen's wave, you know, like, hello, Sharam.
I think the other day when I wrote it down thinking, I'll write it down, is it phonetically. Is that what the word is when you write things down how you would say it? Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I wrote it with 2 A's so that I would make sure I say it like that. Despite all my practicing, I didn't get it right. Anyway, thank you for joining us.
And thank you everyone as well. Like,
yes, thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah.
So we met, was it February? I think, yeah, back in February, when we were both interviewed for the hookup on Triple J.
Triple J, yeah.
And it was just after Valentine's Day, and we connected as we were both waiting to go on the radio, and we both just connected over our mutual obsession with helping people to find love and connection. So we've managed to keep in touch throughout the year, messaging on Instagram and phone calls and whatever. And so we decided to create this interview session today, so that we could help people to build their confidence in dating and life and learn a bit more about surrender. So maybe would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself, Sharam?
Yeah. Okay. I know you had a very nice structure, but I'm just going to talk off the cuff here. I have been a dating coach. Originally, I was more of a dating coach. Now I've sort of expanded into other areas, and I'll say why in a second. But I've been a dating coach quite literally almost from my entire life. Like, I swear to God, like I've been doing it ever since I was a kid, weirdly enough. I'm not even going to get into that. But for the last 5 years, I've been doing it on my own, not working with another company, for example. And it's been really cool. For those people who don't know what coaching is, it goes under the phrase like life coaching, because life coaches, they'll help you sort of break down blocks and stuff like that. What I do is extraordinarily different to what you might experience another form of life coach or coaching person do. So what you generally might find a dating coach might do is they might talk to you about your experiences and be like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? And then they would generally try and push you in the direction. I know I have a lot of dating coach friends, and they're like, they're like the little guy, they're almost like a personal trainer, but for your dating life, if that makes sense. What I do is very fundamentally different, and that's where the whole surrender thing comes into it, which I'll explain what that is in a second. What I really, and Sarah, you said that you warned everyone I'm going to be swearing, so I'm going to totally be swearing because it allows me to be as candid as I want to be. So thank you everyone for being patient. I know if some people don't like it. But what I really fucking love is for people to realize that they already fucking know what to do, if that makes sense. And the reason why is because I remember I was working for another company. I was touring the world. We were coaching guys on like how to be confident, how to talk to their desired people, which in this case was mostly women, heterosexual men. And it was cool telling them what to do, what to say, and it was working. But I swear to God, it's like all we were doing was replicating ourselves. I went to a meditation retreat, realized I wasn't happy. I came back. That's when an old mentor of mine, she was like, you got to coach women. So I think for 3 years, I almost exclusively coached women. But it was during this time, I sort of realized that it's like, look, everyone reads online, like what to say, what to do. Like, I don't know if you've ever read like an article like, oh, what to do in this particular dating situation. I've definitely produced a lot of those videos in the past through YouTube, and those have been the most popular. But what I find to be the most powerful thing that actually lets people do it themselves without having to try and come up with some method or try and manipulate the situation is to just feel whatever's going on inside. And that's what I talk about when I'm talking about surrender. Like, and sometimes it's painful. So like, for example, a lot of the time when I'm working with people, when we're actually doing a coaching call one-on-one, so like a private coaching session with each other, there's generally tears, because it's like, we're not talking, they're trying to say, for example, connect with someone, or they're trying to be more confident, right? Or they're trying to be basically it's like someone is trying to be the person they're meant to be. So they're trying to move forward. But during the call, what we're doing is we're taking it back. We're going back to what is stopping them. We're taking it back to what are they truly afraid of? Can we surrender to that feeling? And I'll talk more about what that means in a second. Can we truly let ourselves fully, deeply feel the fear and all the anxiety and all that stuff. And usually once one thing comes up, it's like a volcano. It all starts coming up. A lot of the people I work with will report like they'll have one of the worst weeks of their life. And it'll be like all their anxiety is coming out. But after that week, it is like they never had an issue with that situation. So it's like people who are afraid of, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, I feel really nervous, are suddenly incredibly comfortable not knowing what to do and feeling really nervous, if that makes sense. Or people who are anxious about being rejected are suddenly super comfortable with being rejected. It's no longer a big deal. So it's like what I really, as I said before, what I really fucking love is helping people see that they can do it themselves, if that makes sense, by removing I remember when we were on the radio, they were like, oh, what are the tips and tricks? And I was like, most people just need to grieve, let them cry. Most people don't admit to themselves that they're actually feeling. And that can be a whole journey in itself. So if you don't know what surrender is, that's the practice. That's almost the exclusive practice that I work in right now. And now I'm sort of pushing that online because it's something that people couldn't do themselves. It's basically, if you're ever feeling, it's the deep emotional surrender. So you don't surrender to the situation because truly sometimes we want to change the situation. We surrender to how the situation makes us feel. So if you want to speak to someone and you're feeling nervous, rather than beating yourself up about, oh, I should have gone forward, I should have talked to that person, I should have made the situation happen, you just let yourself fully be nervous. Because emotions have a cycle, if that makes sense. Emotions are like a book. Once we fully let ourselves read the book, experience it, we almost let them go. It's a very hard thing to describe sometimes, but when people have experienced it, they know it deeply. It's like you've watched a movie, right? Now you know what the movie is about. So you can almost choose to watch it again or watch it not. Emotions tend to persist, like anxieties tend to persist, fears tend to persist, stress tend to persist when we're actually avoiding them. But it's ironic, because we avoid feeling stressful, so we do all this other stuff, but we never deal with the stress itself. Once we've surrendered to the stress, it tends to run out. It has a time limit. It's got like a countdown clock. It might be a second. It might be a year. I personally use this practice. I remember when I first figured this out, I decided I was going to surrender to depression. It took me like 3 years to get over it, or 3 to 5 years. I can't remember. It was a very long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope that answers what is coaching.
Let me just go back to see if we covered all the questions.
Yeah, please help.
All in like one hit. All right. So, where were we? So I spoke about my background, your background. I warn people that you do swear often. And yes. Yeah, so
by the way, everyone, I was on radio again, 2 weeks ago? I can say shit on radio. I was so happy about that.
Yeah, I remember you telling me you were very excited about it. And I said, yeah, but it was like 11 p.m. show or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the same one we were on, actually.
Yeah. The nighttime one. All right, so the questions that we were going to start with, which I think you have kind of covered. So what is coaching? So I think, did you describe that as helping people sort of work out what their blocks are?
Yeah, so for me, it's helping people figure out what their blocks are and essentially letting them fully feel deeply what those blocks are so they can run out. But coaching can be for other people. If you go to another coach, for example, it might be like, oh, you're feeling nervous, huh? Well, go put yourself in situations where you feel nervous. So it's really a mixed bag. But personally, when I'm working with people, it's figuring out the blockages. It's a really gentle conversation and helping them sort of move through the energy, if that makes sense.
So for maybe people who haven't even heard of the term blockage before.
Yeah, what is that? Yeah.
Some examples of blockages or blocks that people might have in life or in dating.
A blockage might be, that's a good question to define the term. It might be that you're in a relationship and you're afraid of upsetting your partner. So you don't do anything, but you're also afraid of feeling nervous or afraid of feeling like you might be upsetting them. So you don't even let yourself feel it. So you tend to just stay still. It's an emotional blockage is if you think of your life, I often use this as a metaphor. If you think of your life like a pipe and like events and actions and ideas and energy runs through the thing like a pipe, emotional blockages are like things that clog the pipe. So it is things like fear, it's things like anxiety, but more importantly, it's our relationship with those things. So if you're afraid of feeling anxious, or if you're afraid of feeling nervous, so you avoid it, if that makes sense. It's a really, again, it's a hard, I'm now accepting that this is a hard concept to grasp. Like I know it, but it's always very hard to explain it. That's why I like to coach people through it, because it's, I can take people through the journey. But it's, yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. So like my own sort of journey with coaching, I think started maybe about 18 months ago, and I hadn't heard the term blockage. And I went to like this coaching, like 5-day coaching session, and they talked about things that effectively just like stop people from getting on with their life. But I don't think they referred to it as blockage. And so it wasn't until maybe 6 months or 12 months later when I started doing like a coaching course and they were talking about blockages, or I must have listened to something on YouTube or whatever, and they were talking about blocks, or someone that I was speaking to talked about blocks. And then it kind of clicked. So I think whatever we learn today, it might not click today, but
yeah, in
time you'll think back and be like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Yeah. That's what happened to me.
So a really good example, here's the thing, right? Similar. I used to be afraid of people not understanding what I was saying. So that in effect could have been considered a block. I was afraid of people not understanding what I was saying. Then what I would do is, because I was afraid of that, didn't let myself be afraid, I was actually altering the way I was speaking, so I would try and get it right. But there are so many people out there, there's so many ways of explaining things, you can never get it right. So ultimately, as a result, sometimes I was diluting what I was trying to say. So that was my blockage in a sense. When I finally surrendered, and when I finally accepted that I'm never truly going to be able to express fully what I'm saying, I actually got better at it, because I was no longer worried. Yeah, you're like, yeah. I was no longer worried of getting it right anymore. That's ironically when I started swearing a bit more as well, because I was just letting it out, basically. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's basically, I would describe a blockage as a belief, an emotion, something like that, that's stopping us from truly just being who we're meant to be and creating what we're meant to create. That's a really simple way of describing it.
I was thinking the other day, because we had a conversation about how I'm so scared of getting people's names wrong, so I generally would just avoid saying their name. And I was like, oh, but when I introduce you, I have to say your name and want to make sure I get it right. So that's what I was practicing, and I still stuffed it up. But I think that maybe the block in the past of not saying people's names maybe stopped me from connecting with people as much.
Exactly. Yeah. So we end up practicing, we're nervous, when we're actually stopping ourselves from fully learning it, which in fact is getting it wrong. You know, like getting it wrong is the first step to getting it right. Being terrible at something is the first step to being amazing at something, if that something is something that you want. So like, I get it. Yeah.
So we've just got a question come through, and it's just about coaching. So if you were to coach someone, generally how many sessions do people have when they...
So that's a good question, because I'm looking at it here from Lynn, wonderful and amazing Lynn. How long do you see someone when you're coaching them? So I've normally structured around like a 6-week program, because like maybe the first few weeks, it's like, it's start again. Every coaching call is roughly around an hour long. Sometimes it takes more, because if it needs to, it needs to. But I like to do a 6-week program, because then it's like one call every week for 6 weeks. For some people, it takes longer. For some people, after the 6 weeks, they want to do it. Like they want to just keep going. But usually, the truth be told is, it's like, because we're digging, we're basically unblocking stuff. It's like climbing Mount Everest. You can literally go for as long as you want to go. You can go till you reach the top, or you can go till you just get to where you want to go, for example. I've got a client now, as an example, I've been working with for almost like 3 years. Now, we just removed a huge blockage, right? A huge blockage. She spent like a couple of weeks ago, a week crying on the floor with her dog, just letting years of pain coming out that she never let out. But now it's like, I'm looking at her being like, I don't think I have anything more to give you. And I feel like that's the point. So how long does it take? Usually as long as it takes, but with most people, it's just like a 6-week course. Because it's like we're here for a purpose. We're trying to get the purpose done. Yeah.
And that's for like one sort of area of life, or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With most people, I do work with dating and relationships and stuff like that. But yeah.
Because I was making a list, I think yesterday, of like all of the different coaching or coaches or coaching programs that I've done in maybe the last 18 months. And I got to 9. So like 9 different coaches and stuff. I'm learning a little bit of, different people and different programs. So let's see, what was the second question? I think you may have also answered that, which was, why did you become a coach in the first place?
I think when you find your life path, even if you're ever going to move beyond it, I think one thing that I've noticed with people is that we tend to have done it for our whole life, if that makes sense. When I was a kid, when some of my friends were very depressed, I spent my time just trying to make them feel happy. I remember with my first girlfriend, I actually did interventions with her and her mother to try and improve their relationship, if that makes sense. I spent my life, very personal information, spent my life watching my father not necessarily be very nice to my mother, wanting to be able to change that. The irony was later on in life when I learned these skills and learned about surrender and learning how to help people through it and stuff like that, I actually was helping my mother through it. And it got to the point where if I did any more, that I would actually be taking away from her, because she likes the drama. She likes the arguments, if that makes sense. It would be boring for her. That's the next step. If she wants to walk that path, we have it. But that's honestly why I remember when I was a kid, I literally just was obsessing about why people do things, like why people choose to buy things, why people choose to be with someone, why people choose to kiss someone, for example. Like, what is the emotion? I care about emotions. But since then, it's really evolved past that. Since I've really learned like more about emotions, more about, as I said before, clearing them, moving beyond them, surrendering them, like letting them run their course so we can just be like, we're okay feeling pain, we're okay not feeling pain, and suddenly we're just able to be ourselves. That's what I love now. I love seeing the relationship between, like I get off on it. Like I love seeing someone struggle with something and try and avoid it, or like try and get beyond it, but then they finally let themselves struggle. They finally let themselves feel really bad. They let it happen. And then like the next week, it's like they never had a problem in their entire life, if that makes sense. And that's the shit I love. I love it so much, from people, like from relationships to like their careers to like sexuality. Like sexuality is one of those areas that really is, it's got like good feedback, you know what I mean? So like someone might be struggling to connect with their partner, and then they finally feel the fear about intimacy or the fear of rejection. And then like, it's like they never had that problem. It's like they're like I like the word sex demon. It's like they let themselves fully be themselves, present of who they want to be. They're okay with it being slow. They're okay with it being whatever else you want to be. Again, MA 15 plus may contain coarse language and themes, everyone.
I think you've only dropped the F-bomb once so far.
Yeah, so. I'm trying to be nice. But yeah, that's why I became a coach.
Yeah, cool. And I think that's like, so I've been I've been doing social events now officially, like as a business, since the beginning of 2017. So 17, 18, 19, 20, like 3.5 years. And I guess what I noticed over time is there's a lot of people that show interest, but then I don't actually commit to coming to the events. And so I started thinking like, first of all, before I'd done any coaching, I was like, this is so frustrating. Why are these people like ghosting me? But then I actually started thinking about, why is it that they say they want to do something and then they don't come to an event? And then I started reflecting on my own experience, and I realized that a lot of it is that they've got blockages. So whether maybe then they're just not comfortable to come out and meet strangers, or they don't know how they're going to start a conversation, or there were some people that wouldn't come to events because they thought it was compulsory to wear a name tag. So that was a blockage for them.
Been there.
Like for me, I know before I go to a social event where I know there's going to be all strangers, I want to like say I'm not coming anymore, but I take the step and I just go there, and then after a while I realize, it's not so bad. But for a lot of people, taking that first step is really hard, and that's also why I wanted to do this interview with you, to help people build the confidence to, I guess, take that first step, or at least have the self-awareness and understand what is stopping them from reaching their goals.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we can.
So, and Liam said, this is kick-ass combo.
Yeah. Liam, I love your energy. Also, just quickly, just as an aside, there's someone called with the last name Hargraves in this.
Yeah.
Hello. Watch the show Umbrella Academy. Hargraves is the last name of pretty much 90% of the characters. I don't know if you have or not, but yeah, it's a really good show. I really recommend it. And yeah, as soon as I saw your name, I was like, amazing last name.
All right, let's go back to our questions. Make sure we keep on track. So I guess, who do you coach specifically? And maybe we'll try and answer this in like 5 minutes. Then we'll talk about surrender in 5 minutes, and then we'll get to people's questions.
Thank you for keeping me on track. I'll answer it in 1 minute. Who do I coach? Humans. Predominantly, most people, like good business practice says you've got to have it, like a specific target. So I predominantly coach people who are basically just struggling in a relationship, or struggling in their personal lives, basically struggling with themselves, mostly to do with relationships, confidence, sexuality, dating, things like that. But it used to be exclusively men, used to be exclusively women. Now it doesn't necessarily matter. Doesn't necessarily matter what is the word, or sexual orientation. I'm now at a point where I realized I was stressing so much about who I was trying to reach that now I just have stopped, and now I've let who comes to me, if that makes sense. So I've like switched it around. That was my surrender. Yeah. And now, like, so for example, through my YouTube channel, here's a heavy thing, right? Here's a not an F-bomb, a heavy bomb. There's one of the people who watches me, for example, a lot on YouTube. I know because she comments on every video I've done. Just watching the videos, learning how to surrender herself, because that's the thing. Like, I want everyone to be able to do it. Whether they work with me, whether they do it themselves, doesn't matter. She has finally, or has started the process to process the grief. She's in her 60s. Her son committed suicide in 2007. This is what I mean by a heavy thing. She's fine, and it makes me cry even thinking about it. Like, she's finally starting to process that grief. And that's the thing that's stopping her from connecting with her relationships. She's always looking for relationships to make her feel better, but she doesn't feel good. So it's like, who comes to it? I don't know anymore. Whoever resonates with me and feels like they need a thing. But predominantly, people I work with privately, relationships, dating, stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, heavy bomb.
Yeah. And then, maybe do you want to, what was it? What was the question? What is surrender all about? And then we'll get on to audience questions.
So surrender is the practice that I essentially use. And it's the practice that people can do at home. It's the practice that sometimes you do need a coach to like lead you through this. You know what I mean? Like, having an expert through it is really helpful. But it's basically the practice of letting yourself feel whatever the fuck is going on inside. So full on, deep, letting yourself feel whatever is happening. So if you're nervous, you're letting yourself feel nervous. If you're grieving, you let yourself feel grieving. If you feel fat, letting yourself feel fat. Like, it's all of these things that in life, how do I put this into words? It's like, imagine you've got an amazing house. You are an amazing house. You listening, everyone here is an amazing house. Now, sometimes what we do is we collect a little bit of dirt. And what then is very natural, people say, don't think about it, don't feel about it. So we put it in the corner. And then the dirt keeps building up and building up and building up and building up. And then we try and make it look better. So we put a blanket over it. And then we put a flower on top of the blanket. What surrender is about is looking at the dirt in the house and realizing that you got a dirty house It's not bad, and actually dealing with it. It's the inner game of life, essentially. It's the realizing that you've got a ego around relationships, so you don't want to get hurt, so you don't even try. Or it's the realizing that it's the dropping the ego around thinking that, like some people collect friends, for example. They collect friends because they're afraid of not having friends. So they get really good at getting friends. I know I used to be like that. Now, once I realized that, I was able to let it go. Once you surrender, it has to be felt. It comes up once your body knows how to feel something, like a better way, an easier way. It comes up. So all that fear, all that pain comes up. Usually it doesn't last very long. Depends on how long you've been avoiding it. And I'm not saying everyone has stuff avoiding it, because some people are fucking saints. Let them be saints. I know I have a lot of shit. I use this practice personally. I'm constantly telling, for example, my partner, like, oh yeah, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but I'll be like, oh, I overeat because I'm afraid of like disappointing my parents or something like that. Like it's all really weird, but once you fully surrendered, it makes sense afterwards. Like you'll have like a realization. Like often when I'm working with people, when I get them to do it, when I ask them some questions and I get them to do it, I ask them, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And they're like, oh, I'm thinking of this, like this past situation. It's like, why did I even like that guy? Like, why was I nervous in that situation? Because they develop an expanded awareness. Anyway, I'm doing my best to describe a very, so Sarah is you're the scientist here. Like you're very scientific. You're like, these are the things. Well, I'm the artist. It's like trying to describe a painting while you're very good at describing a painting because you're like, yes, I've studied science. If that makes sense.
But yeah, so I think I started to understand the concept.
Please translate.
Sorry?
I'm saying please translate.
Well, I think I started to understand the concept of surrender when I think we caught up before the whole lockdown situation for a cup of tea. And I was like, oh, I don't want to use dating apps. They're like so frustrating and I'm never going to find anyone on a dating app. And then I think your feedback was more or less like to surrender to it. Like just don't expect it to be a certain way. Just use it and understand that some people are going to ghost you and some people are going to have a good conversation with you and some people are going to have a good conversation with you and then like it'll fade away and just through that's how the experience is.
Sometimes that was actually what I was on Triple J recently. Like they were like, how can you make dating less shit? And I was like, dating shit. People are going to reject you. Be happy that you got rejected. Rejection is life. It's a fucking part of it all. Yeah, so, yeah.
But I think my understanding was that I was going into the apps thinking the experience was going to be exactly how I dreamed it to be.
Yeah.
But then when I realized that, 5% of the experience is going to be how I dream it to be and the rest of it is just
I have two things I want to quickly say. First of all, Liam says, have you ever heard, Sharam, of the term emotional gold digging? No, but feel free to define it.
Yeah, do you want to turn your microphone on, Liam?
Where are you, Mr. Liam? There you are.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it because yesterday I caught up with a friend and we were talking about relationships and psychology, and we were talking about how unresolved issues within ourselves sometimes can lead you to consciously or unconsciously seek a balm or a distraction or a resolution of those unresolved feelings within another connection. It doesn't have to be a significant other. It could be a mother, a father, a friend, could be a person passing on the street, but generally speaking. And she used the term emotional gold digging, and I have a little bit of an issue with it because it kind of automatically has this stigma that gold digging is bad, which it's neither bad nor good. But I had a situation many years ago when I was dancing with a dancing partner who was my professional dancing partner. Well, it was also my personal partner, and we were together for about 2 years. But over the course of the second year, it dawned on me that I was in part using the relationship as a form of satisfying my own insecurities about financial instability and self-sufficiency. So in a sense, emotional gold digging in that sense would be I'm digging within her the way she was financially, because she supported a lot of our dance tuition, for example, because I didn't have it. Now she might have been happy to do that, but independent of her and the relationship, that was something that I knew deep down that there were some issues here that weren't making me move forward, regardless of whether I stayed together with her. We ended up breaking up for a variety of different reasons, but that was a very strong reason. That's what is that clear about what I mean by emotional?
That is 100% clear, and also your clarity into this is amazing. It's very good. Like I'm like, yeah, good insight into yourself and good insight into the world. Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm lost. Can you summarize it for me?
Basically, oh God, how do I summarize something? He was saying that he realizes that in the same way he was having a conversation with his friend, in the same way people might gold dig for money. Like I might date you because you got that money and I got no money and I want your money. It might be the same way where you got that love or you got that support. In his case, it was financial support. He recognized it. And that I want that support. But here's the thing. It's like, once you've realized that, you get a choice. So you get a choice if you want to keep doing that or not. You become conscious about it. Liam said an amazing word there. Really amazing word, balm. It's like sometimes we use relationships as balms. That's what I'm talking about here as well. Like we're like rubbing ointment on ourselves because we don't want to feel bad, or we're not. So the reason why I say none of this is actually intricately bad, as long as you're not really hurting anyone, is because it's like dropping the weights of life. That's a common phrase I use. So it's like if you go to the gym, right, and you try to lift too heavy weights, you'll hurt yourself. Or you'll actually exercise wrong because you can't do the proper form to exercise your muscles in the way that you want to. With having some relationships like balms, I that's why I say like dropping the weights, like making life easier for yourself. If you become conscious about this and choose to keep being in an emotional gold digging relationship, there's nothing wrong with that. It's probably best to be vocal about it. You know what I mean? Like express to your partner that you actually need love. But once you realize that that's what you're doing, you actually get a choice that if you actually are seeking emotions, maybe you can start seeking it from friends and family, like not just your partner, if that makes sense. Like that clarity that William was talking about is power. Like it gives you a choice who you want to get it from. So it's becoming conscious. It's not that we are unconscious. We are always becoming more conscious in our relationships. And so Liam's story, for those people who understood it, was a story of becoming more conscious. That's what surrender is. It's the process of becoming more conscious, to just witness what's going on inside of us. So yeah, that was a very good question. Does that make sense to everyone? I don't know. Sarah, you facilitate. Oh no, am I still here? Yes?
I think my internet might be slowing down because it looks like everyone's frozen.
No, you're fine now.
Is my internet working okay?
Yes, correcto.
Okay, cool. What was the question?
I don't know. Just quickly as well, there are some people who, when we talk about this is going to hit home hard. Like you're going to get it, you're going to love it, it's going to be amazing. There are some people who you're going to be walking along the beach one day, as Sarah said before, and then it's going to click. And that's one of the realizations I had recently, where it's like, oh, I can't possibly get it right. It's like, I've surrendered to it. I felt it. I'm okay getting it wrong. And I realize that people will learn the things when they need to learn it, you know, whether it might be through me or they hear it now. I've often had clients that we've worked together for one client we worked together for like a year. After that, we're still friends. Like, I don't know, it's been like a few years now. She's like, oh, stuff you said still like, it's like, like I get it now. Like it's happening. It keeps happening. So it's a long-term investment, even though it might be a short amount of time.
I think, yeah. In my case, I find when I go and I learn something, sometimes I don't have the light bulb moment. I get the theory and then I'll experience something, and that's when I realize I can apply the theory, like, you know, months later, and that's when I'll have my light bulb moment. So I think I had a light bulb moment, like when we had that conversation months ago. About dating apps.
Here's a thing. I would like to share Okay, this is just a quick thing, Sarah. You have every right to say no, but I would like to share my perspective of that conversation, which might be really good for everyone.
Okay, sure.
Okay, this includes my insight into a conversation you showed me. Yes or no?
Yes,
no?
I did show you a conversation.
Yes.
I can't really remember it. I don't
Okay.
even know who I was texting at that time.
Okay, this is really good. All right. So here, guys, here's a genuine thing, right? So what we do, especially in relationships, what we do is everything we are feeling, people can feel, right? Everything that we are holding back, people can feel. It's either written on our face, like when you're angry, you're like, when you're happy, like we can't necessarily, like, thinking we can hide our emotions, we can to an extent, but we also can't to an extent. And we don't necessarily realize as humans how much we're actually communicating. So Sarah showed me one of the conversations she had, right? And she's like, where did I go wrong? And I love this as an example because her opening line on, like, I don't know what app it was.
Oh yeah, I had like a paragraph.
Yeah, so her opening line was perfect. Then she sent several paragraphs, all filled with her anxieties. Then her closing line was perfect. That's a fucking metaphor for life right there. It's like, this is the blockage. This is it. And I remember reading his response. He ignored your shit because he knows that's not you. And we tend to be impatient for results when we are dealing with something, when we're dealing with anxiety, like we want it now. We're not patient. People who often surrender end up being more and more patient. So it's like not trying to rush it, not trying to get the results so soon. So in that conversation, you were like, hi, how you going? And then your anxiety was just there, intense. But that's what people do. We project our anxiety, and some people can receive it more and some people can receive it less. So that was a really good example of shit going down.
I remember now because I was assuming of how they were going to interpret my message or something. And so I think that's why I wrote that. But since then, I think like the last conversations I had using Bumble, I wasn't expecting a reply or an immediate reply. And then I was just okay with the experience.
Yeah, good. And it probably,
even though it's been like 3 months of sending a message maybe twice a week, which is normally.
Take your time. You don't need to rush it.
Yeah. All right. I feel like we should get onto some of the submitted questions. And I think Liam put a link in the chat there. What's the link for, Liam? Oh, the book.
I just want to let you know it's been 45 minutes already, so I'm trying to keep track of time. So
yeah. Oh, it's just a book. It's just a book I read many years ago that talks about how friends all have strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes you'll have a number of friends. One of those friends will be a party friend. One of those friends will be your D&M friend. But from time to time, over many years, your party friend will go through a period of time where they can't be your party friend for a while. And then you should shift your alignment and look for maybe the party times with the friend that you normally had D&Ms with. And it just teaches you to be flexible with your different friends and not put them into a box.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. So we'll start with one of the questions.
Okay.
Why is it that the ones we are really attracted to are the ones we can approach the least, if at all? Like maybe we can't even approach them. And I think Tony Robbins calls this approach avoidance. Yeah.
I like the term approach anxiety. It's all good. Doesn't really matter what term we use.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's the same thing. It's the emotional magnitude. It's the pressure we put on ourselves. It's the pressure we put on other people. It's the pressure we put on the situations. It's the pressure that we put on to get the results. It's also the idea we have in our head of the results, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm often like, oh, surrender, surrender, surrender. But truth be told, that's the main reason why. When we are finally at peace with whatever might happen, when we are finally at peace with not getting the results, ironically, that's when we usually get it. But that's when we start to collect positive experiences. So it's like if you're afraid of approaching someone that you are attracted to, it's like, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of stuff there, right? We don't know what it is. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I'm not getting into because it's a very general question here. But yeah, truth be told, we just have a huge, like we're bringing a lot of weight with us, if that makes sense. This is why often people will be terrified to approach someone they're attracted to at home, but then they go on a holiday. Remember holidays, when holidays existed? They'll go on a holiday and be able to meet someone new really quickly. It's because they've got the emotional space for it. They're no longer in the same situation with the same drama and the same stuff. So they're almost like a refreshed version of themselves, sometimes on a holiday. Sometimes not everyone is like this, I like to think of it, I've often said this to my clients, that the God particle of relationships is emotional availability. Like, are we available emotionally for ourselves, but are we emotionally available for them? Like, can we actually see what they are going through? You know what I mean? Like, it's like having covers over your eyes. Like, can you actually see what they're going through? So when you're trying to bring this back to the question, because I very much can go on very like big old rants about things that are related but not related.
I've got a bell just in case you over talk.
But yeah, to answer the question very quickly, that's why we're just like, we are nervous. We have shit. The solution: feel your nerves, feel your shit. Eventually we become so comfortable with it, it won't be a big deal. And more importantly, talking to someone that you're attracted to won't be a big deal. And more importantly, they will feel that it's not a big deal. So it's easier to start a conversation.
Okay. So you feel nervous about approaching someone that you're attracted to, surrender to feeling nervous and just go and talk to them.
You can. I honestly would not even think about approaching someone you're attracted to until you find yourself accidentally doing it. As in, don't even think about approaching someone that you find attractive until you no longer feel nervous, if that makes sense. Like, just don't even worry about it. Just keep walking around, keep seeing people you're attracted to, keep letting yourself feel how, like, oh, I'm attracted to that person. Oh, I'm nervous. Oh, this, oh, that. Eventually you'll process it all. You'll process those emotions, you'll process those nerves, you'll get so comfortable with it that eventually, this is what I say eventually, it almost seems like magic. Eventually you'll just start talking to people you're attracted to because you'll develop a higher acumen in yourself, if that makes sense. Or not, it's okay if it doesn't.
That's so just notice it.
Just notice it. For most people, that's the first fucking step. They're like, oh, I'm attracted to someone. I have to speak to them. It's like, I love when I'm working with people, they're like, oh, I'm attracted to someone. I have to text them. And then they freak out about texting them. And then they send them a huge text that's filled with all that anxiety. So it's like, if you want to message someone, one thing I often tell people is like, oh, you don't know what to say? Don't say anything. Don't. Just let yourself not know how to say anything, or let yourself not do anything. If you're going to text someone, eventually you'll figure out the right thing to say, because the gears in our head, it's like shyness. Oh my God. This is the last thing I'll say on this thing. Shyness. Let yourself be shy. It's all like, literally, if there's one thing you get from this, it's like, let yourself be whatever the fuck you are. Let yourself be shy. One thing I noticed through my own introspection, my own surrender to my own shyness, was realizing that when I'm shy, I'm actually thinking of something to say, but it's so buried down that I couldn't witness it. So I was impatient. I was like, oh, I've got to do this thing. Anyway, I'm trying to keep it all. All of this is the tip of the iceberg, by the way. All of this is the huge ass tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what this next question is. So, do you have tips for getting out of the comfort zone? And I think this person was specifically saying that they're in their comfort zone because they're mostly focusing on family and work. So how can they maybe start to step outside of just focusing on family and work? How can they get out of their comfort zone?
Okay, so nothing wrong with the comfort zone. Step one. We definitely live in a society where if you're ever into like personal development and getting out there, there's a lot of advice that's like, step outside of your comfort zone. There is nothing wrong with your comfort zone. I like to think what we want to do is, instead of trying to push ourselves, we expand ourselves, if that makes sense. So if you're on an island, rather than trying to get to another island, you build up your island, make your island better, make your island bigger. I don't know how you do that with an island. To get sand? I don't know.
Dubai.
Sorry?
like Dubai. Just
like Dubai. Be
Answer.
Dubai. But to be honest, for most of these questions, the answer will always be the same. Until someone truly fully understands how emotions work, the answer is usually the same. It's like, how do you get yourself outside of the comfort zone? Well, are you uncomfortable being where you are? Because there's nothing wrong with being where you are. Can you be comfortable not being comfortable? For a lot of people, what do? They're like, oh, ski yourself every day. I'm going to ski myself every day, get more comfortable being scared. It's like, that's it. Being scared, like being nervous, being anxious is the solution. It's not the problem. Have you ever seen like, I don't know how we're going to do this as a question. Anyone ever seen Avengers Endgame? Yes? Little twinkle fingers if you've seen Endgame.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen Endgame, massive spoilers. Not really massive spoilers. Medium spoilers. It's been out for a while. You should have seen it. So in the Avengers movies, there's a character called the Hulk, right? And he was all, when he gets angry, he turns into a big green man and gets really all smashy. Now, throughout the entire series, this is a major issue because every time he gets angry, he gets smashy, he turns into this big green angry man. In one of the movies, the big green angry man actually takes over. But in Endgame, he's half big green angry man and half regular man, Bruce Banner, Mr. Scientist. Very smart, so he has the best of both worlds. What I'm talking about here is this, because in the movie, he said, I used to think the Hulk was the problem. I used to think that turning big, green, and angry was an actual problem in my life, and it was a thing that needed to be gotten rid of. Now, and I'm paraphrasing what he says, he goes, now I realize that actually the Hulk was the solution. He was protecting me. He was protecting me from the radiation or whatever that made him the Hulk in the first place. And that's what all of these emotions are. It's like, they aren't the problem, they're the solution. It's not that you were nervous enough, it's that you weren't nervous enough. It's not that you were angry, that was the problem, it's that you weren't angry enough. And then you get better at being nervous and better at being angry. So it's like, how do you get out of your comfort zone? Being uncomfortable is not the problem. Being uncomfortable is the solution. We become comfortable with being uncomfortable, and then it changes everything because you're no longer worried about, and more also, I'm trying to fit this in. Sometimes it's not the emotion, it's the emotion about the emotion. So sometimes it's not feeling uncomfortable that's the problem, it's our uncomfortability with feeling uncomfortable. Or feeling anxious is not the problem, it's our anxiety with feeling anxious. Or feeling angry is the problem, it's being angry with ourselves or angry with them about being angry, if that makes sense. It's the emotions about the emotions. It's our relationship with those emotions that sometimes need to be surrendered and let go and processed first to truly let ourselves be who the fuck we want to be. Because I like we all know it's like, oh, I should eat healthier, but we don't. Oh, I should have talked to that person, but we didn't. So it's that that's the blockage. It's that the delay between what we think we wanted to be and what we wanted to create versus actually what we actually did in the world. So yeah, what's the next question?
Oh, yeah, next question. All right.
3 minutes.
We may end up going 5 minutes over time. All right, so this one is a bit left field. How does one ethically practice non-monogamy? So more of a dating question.
Yeah. So I chose this question because it was left of field for those people who are like, oh, that's a bit strange. If you don't know what ethical non-monogamy is, it's the practice of ethically, so that hopefully no one gets hurt, having either an open relationship or multiple partners or things like that. I reckon this is a very important question because relationships tend to have almost like a movie structure. You know, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. And then some people might find themselves in a relationship or they might find themselves single and they actually want to see multiple people. I, for example, found out that a bunch of people I went to high school with who are people I don't know anything about properly are polyamorous. I was like, Jesus, that's interesting. Never knew. So it's like non-monogamous situations are actually much more common than we think. And there are people who know about it and then there are people who don't know about it. And when you know about it, you actually realize it's much more common than people think. How do you ethically practice it? It's communication. Honestly, it's communication. And I'm always like, oh, surrender. But here is a big example of communication. Like if you're feeling uncomfortable with it, or if you want to explore it, being patient with yourself to communicate what you want. If you're in a relationship, for example, if you're in a relationship and it's a monogamous relationship and you want to explore non-monogamy, be so goddamn patient with it. I would argue, be so goddamn patient with it until you are fully ready to jump into it. Like think about it, explore it, talk to your partner about it. Would you feel comfortable if we opened our relationship? And some people might be not comfortable with it. But if you are single, the honestly thing is just be as vocal as you can about it. Like some people are going to be not like it. Some people are going to like it. But I think it's really important that we are vocal and we actually communicate what we want to our partner or partners, because then you're not leading someone on, if that makes sense. You're not hurting them because they expected a committed relationship and you were like, commitment? My idea of commitment is different to yours. So it's, yeah. And so that's often why I talk about surrender, is because it's a pathway. It's a pathway to knowing what we actually want, or it's a pathway to being honest with ourselves. Like when I'm working with people in non-monogamous relationships, it's like, again, all I'm getting them to do is surrender, because sometimes for most people, they get themselves into non-monogamous relationships and they actually want to be monogamous, but they're afraid of hurting their partner who wanted a monogamous, polyamorous relationship. Yeah. So I think there's lots of questions happening, but I'm trying to keep it short. Again, tip of the iceberg.
So if you thought of it as like the opposite, so an unethical way of being non-monogamous would be effectively like not communicating with your partner or
Yes.
cheating on them. Yeah. So
cheating on them, hurting people, leading people on just because, again, what is an emotional gold digging? So you tell someone, yeah, baby, I'll be with you forever. And then you're not.
Yeah.
Because you're with someone else and you told partner A that you only were with partner A, but you're also with partner B as well. There are a lot of models out there for non-monogamy. There are a lot of models like, oh, you have your primary and you have your secondaries and stuff like that. I'm personally from the perspective, do what works for you. So for example, when I'm coaching people in the relationships, I want people to create their own relationship style, not my model, not your model, their model. So with non-monogamy, what's your style? It's what do you want to get, and being honest with yourselves about what you truly want to experience, because that's a huge thing.
Yeah. So it's almost like there's a spectrum of how relationships could be, and you and your partner create what you
want, or you and your partners or partner or whatever.
Cool. So can we maybe just come back to the comments in the chat in a moment, just in case people need to go? I want to kind of like wrap up the event and then we can go back to the comments and maybe get clarity on.
Thank you everyone for staying beyond the time, even if it's 5 minutes.
Oh,